Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today, we are thrilled to be talking to two of our favorite actors, Jeffrey Wright and Sterling K. Brown, the stars of the upcoming Amazon film, American Fiction. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to the AAFCA members who are on the call today, starting with Mercedes Williams in Pittsburgh, Harrison Martin in Winston-Salem, got it, Harrison, Dana Abercrombie in New York, Michael Sewell in Jeffrey's hometown, Washington, D.C.
Right.
Samuel Luget, another D.C.er, and Janine Coveney, who's just outside of D.C. in Virginia Beach,
Load them
as
up.
well as
Wow.
Anthony
Okay.
White and Brandon Collins in New York.
What up, what up?
And Jill Monroe in L.A. One for the team, Jill. Thank you.
There you go.
I'm going to let you guys do what you do so well, and I will see you on the other side.
Right on.
How did you come to write this book?
What really struck me was that too few books were about my people. Where are our stories? Where's our representation?
Would you give us the pleasure of reading an excerpt?
Yo, Sharonda, girl, you be pregnant again? If I is, Ray Ray is gonna be a real father this time around. Thank you.
Monk, your books are good, but they're not popular. Editors, they want a black book.
They have a black book. I'm black, and it's my book.
You know what I mean.
Look at what they publish. Look at what they expect us to write. I just want to rub their noses in it.
I be standing outside in the night.
Deadbeat dads, rappers, crack. You said you wanted black stuff. That's black, right?
I see what you're doing. We sold your book.
No.
We believe Mr. Lee has written a bestseller.
It's a joke.
The most lucrative joke you've ever told.
Now, is Stag a pseudonym?
Yeah.
Mr. Lee can't use his real name.
Is this based on your actual life?
Yeah, you think some bitch-ass college boy can come up with that shit?
No, I don't.
Can I ask what you were in for? Was it murder?
You said that, not me.
They ran 300,000 copies.
Your books change people's lives.
They're offering $4 million for movie rights.
Yes!
The dumber I behave, the richer I get.
This has gone too far.
Stag Arley is still on the run from authorities.
You haven't done anything. It's not like they can arrest you.
Wish I could go back to not selling books.
Is it bad to cater to people's tastes?
People want to love you, Monk. You should let them love all of you.
There's already so much buzz because of the movie deal.
Michael B. Jordan is circling.
We want to put him on the cover in one of those scarves, I guess you would call them, tied around his head.
A do-rag?
Do-rag, that's it. Do-rag and a tank top with the muscles showing.
Somebody call the fire department.
We're thinking we can get it out in time for Juneteenth.
Thank you both so very much for this opportunity. I have so much I could say. The chemistry among the cast it's downright palpable on screen. Now, how did you work together to build such a strong connection? And did any specific moments during filming stand out as particularly memorable?
It's all fake. Yeah, we can't stand each other,
Man,
by and large.
Can we get this over with?
Done and done, right? Can't get black people together like this. It was pretty instantaneous, I would say. I think there was a unified sort of desire to tell the story because the script was so good. An opportunity for a lot of us to do things on camera or on film that we haven't had a chance to do. And so recognizing what, I'll speak for myself, like for the culture, sort of hungering to see us occupy spaces that aren't limiting, not that there's certain things that are part of our experience, but the totality of our experience hasn't been shown on camera. I think that that mutual enthusiasm led towards the chemistry that you guys felt. What do you guys
If
say?
I'm not mistaken, did you not say that you weren't planning on working at this period when we shot the film?
That is correct.
But you read the script and you said, I want to be there.
That is correct.
That's really indicative of what the feeling was like when we gathered to tell this story. Everyone was on the same page in terms of being passionate about wanting to be there and about inhabiting these characters, and also supporting Cord Jefferson, who had written and ultimately directed this film, because this was born of his vision, him having read Percival Everett's novel Erasure, and recognizing that it was a story that meant something to him and therefore would mean something to others, including us and including an audience. So we dove in wanting to play, wanting to be a part, as Sterling alluded to, of telling a story that we don't often see, or elements of which we don't often see, in dynamics that we don't often see. I had several moments when we were together as a family, and I would just kind of say quietly to myself, I have never been asked to play these notes before. And I just fell into it. And maybe because I'm an only child, I was living out a surrogate family life that I never knew, but we all understood it. We wanted to be there. We loved it. And we tried, to the extent that we could tolerate one another, to do it with love.
I would also say Cord gave us the freedom to play. Like, he wasn't so precious with his own words that if other things came out, he'd be like, if that helps to tell the story, all the better. So if we're outside playing bocce ball, sometimes things sort of get riffed on and explored, or in the swimming pool, what have you. Like, there was space to play, and that always creates room for people who enjoy playing to develop that chemistry.
And I think ultimately there was a level of trust all around.
So it seemed as if American Fiction was like an ode to Black creatives, just about how you use your pen as a sword, or if whether you're in acting, dance, whatever genre you're in. What's your message to Black creatives that see this film who might be battling with their identity, or how they have to be stereotypical or fit in order to be seen or published or produced?
Well, I think the task for Black artists is the same for any artist. And it's a journey to find your authentic voice and then express that. The film, in this instance, with the character Monk, is describing a man who has an authentic voice that's unique to him, as it must be, but may not be considered within the conformity of what is an authentic Black voice by the world outside. But it's his. And I think the task for us specifically as relates to that is not to be vulnerable to the pressures, the external pressures that tell us we're not valid. And just to express without fear.
Can I echo that and then ask you a question? Because I feel like anytime you're trying to perform for somebody else's benefit other than your own, it's going to come across as inauthentic. And when it's inauthentic, it doesn't connect, right? If you're coming from a place of truth to yourself, that's the only way that you can really, truly connect with anybody else. But Centaur sort of has this idea that, like, what's wrong with sort of giving the people what they want? And I'm curious, in terms of that argument, in terms of the show business of it all, how much you have to take that into consideration for your own artistic process.
Well, I mean, I think in working with George C. Wolfe, director of Rustin,
heard of him,
I'm going to give maybe part of a secret away.
Okay.
When we worked together on stage, early on with Angels in America, particularly with Top Dog, Underdog.
Okay.
There's, how should I put it mildly, an absence of concern about what the audience wants.
Okay.
Because the audience does not know what it wants.
Until you give it to them?
We're going to give them.
I got you.
Not necessarily what they want, but what they need.
Understood. Understood.
And so there's a way in doing that you're able to capture both. It's something that the audience has an appetite for, and then you go beyond expectations. And I think no matter what you do, you will not do well in any creative field if you don't surpass expectations. So I mean, it's one of the reasons for me, that I try to stay flexible in the work that I do. People were like, oh, early on. He played Peoples and then he played MLK. That's the same,
Yeah.
I like that. I like staying ahead of people's expectations. And I think particularly when there's the pressure from the external pressure to be pigeonholed or be limited, then it only serves as a greater tool in your toolbox to avoid that. So give them what they want, but give them a little bit more.
I feel you. Good one. Go on.
Hi, Michael here. Both of you guys have a long, extensive track record of playing very multidimensional characters in the realm of film and TV. If you had the opportunity to, explore your character more and see them evolve, what approach will you take with them in terms of like what's left in terms of the story to tell?
I could say this for Cliff in American Fiction. Like, I think when we find him, you find somebody who's kind of coloring outside of the lines. Life is a little messy for Cliff at the moment after being married for 20 years and having it all sort of blow up. And part reckless, but part intentional. He doesn't want to try to live by anybody else's rules except for what he thinks is his authentic truth. And I think it gradually over time, you learn to color a little bit better and you sort of get inside the lines and you find some structure within a new form. I would love to see him sort of find his new normal as time goes on.
Yeah. Are you pitching a series?
Hey, just, tell me where to sign. That's it.
Okay.
I want my residuals.
Well, I'm going to say this first. I like the way the film ends. I like that there's space and there's uncertainty, but there's some semblance of hope.
Yeah.
And I like that we don't answer that question. That said, there are elements in the book that I found really meaningful and useful in terms of understanding this character Monk. And there are these moments which are kind of like, Susan Laurie Parks might call them spells. There are these like little meditations in which he drifts out of the narrative and he starts to think about fly fishing. And he describes techniques that he uses for fly fishing. There are other times that he talks about book ideas. There are other times that he talks about woodwork in like really such granular detail that you can like smell the wood, the sawdust as it's cut. And I that's not answering your question, but I like the idea of him drifting into those interests even deeper that have nothing to do with anything that we kind of focus on in the film, because he just has such a broad imagination and a broad range of peculiar and perhaps for him by some unexpected interests. And maybe but no, I think definitely in what we take from that in the novel is that's where his home is, that's where his heart is, that's where his love is. And perhaps in pursuing those, he finds those things literally as well. So I'm not going to answer your question quite specifically, but maybe it's something.
You want to see Monk in A River Runs Through.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
What's up?
Hi, this is Janine.
Hey,
and my question is, since this film addresses the way African Americans are portrayed in media, do you think that this film will help change the way the powers that be in Hollywood and the publishing world will view Black stories moving forward? Or does the film simply preach, not simply because it's a marvelous film, but preach to the choir, like meaning that those who need to heed the message will not ever see it?
You think?
Well, I think there's an answer. There's a great series of questions, rather, raised by the film, but there is a definite answer outside the film in the making of it. In that, as of course, Cord had a vision for this film. You can have a vision, but if you don't have someone who's able to facilitate that vision with resources, who shares that vision and shares an understanding of what's possible in terms of marketability, then you have nothing. You just have a lovely vision. And in this instance, Alana Mayo of Orion shared Cord's vision and shared his belief that not only was this a story that wanted to be told, but it's one that audiences wanted to receive. Now, obviously, we're not out, officially yet, but it seems that their vision was clear because, I've already talked to multiple people who've seen the movie 3 and 4 times, but I say that to suggest that if you don't have the understanding of what's possible, no matter what comes to you, you're not going to facilitate it. But I think when we look at someone like Alana Mayo being in a position to greenlight this, perhaps the answer is right there.
Yeah.
If we're going to make these films and have them given the support that's necessary for them to be successful and reach wider audiences, then you need to have people in position of power, the powers that be and the decision makers. You need to have people who have a full understanding of the landscape. That's been a frustration of mine for a while in this business, is recognizing that people have a desire for things that simply aren't on the shelf. And they're not on the shelf because there's no one recognizing that the shelf is even there.
Yeah.
And so if you have people in that executive level who are blind to the possibility, then everything shuts down. In this instance, we were fortunate to have Alana Mayo and have Cord Jefferson really at the helm of this thing, and we find ourselves in a pretty good position right now with it.
I'll say this, Janine, we're out here talking to you, trying to get the word out. We've been going all over the country, a little bit outside of the country, talking this film up. There's going to be advertising that comes out. Hopefully the film is receiving the necessary support, on that end to make sure that people know about it, that people can be excited about it. And if the answer to your question will be how people vote with their dollar, you know what I'm saying, inside the community and outside the community. What we're hearing is encouraging, that people are finding a home for themselves in this film, regardless of what they look like. And that was probably the hope for us as a cast, that this is definitely for the culture, but things that can be for the culture can also be universal. So I'm hopeful that this sort of expands the breadth of experience that we get a chance to show to the world on screen, because we recognize that, the stories of slave narratives and from the inner cities, et cetera, are part of our experience. They're not the totality of it. I hope that white folks at all get a chance to sort of wear that skin as well and be like, yo, I love that story. I love that family. And I saw myself in them. We're going to find out. Vote with that dollar.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Jill Monroe, RSVP with Jill Monroe. So I really enjoyed the film. And one of the things that I enjoyed most, kind of piggybacking off what we were talking about, is the idea that sometimes we have to face the truth that we, as a culture, like the things that we also have a problem with or could be detrimental to us. And I like the balance of walking through that. What are your thoughts as working on this film of that kind of dichotomy of we do want better and we do want to see other stories, but we really sometimes like these kind of stories that might be considered degenerative or whatever adjective you want to insert?
Sure. I think obviously this issue doesn't only relate to film or to literature. It's a wider issue among pop culture and messaging. And if I look at music, for example, music is no longer just about music anymore. It's also about performance and persona and all of that. I think sometimes if I look through that lens, we have a tendency to kind of embrace our limitations as empowering us. And I do wonder if we need to expand into embracing something, and this goes to Monk's argument, that is independent of the pressures, independent of the boot that we at times feel on our neck. What I see often that kind of concerns me is not solely the narratives that are told necessarily, but the repetitiveness, particularly in music, of the lack of originality, that every sound is the same. That this portrait of masculinity has to be poisonous and toxic in order for it to be valid. And it's repeated, and the language is repeated, and the beats even are repeated ad nauseum to the point where I can't distinguish anyone from any other, anyone's sound from anyone else's. And it's not what it is. It's just that I hear the same thing repeatedly.
Yeah.
And it's the absence of creativity and originality, which is what, in the beginning of our creation of, culture in this country was what differentiated us. That was our power.
Yeah.
That we were unexpected, that we were creating something out of nothing, that we were doing things that had not existed before. And clearly this form of modern American music hadn't, but it seems to me we've gotten bogged down in a type of conformity that's weird to me. And the conformity in and of itself is a limitation. And then the role that we play within it is one of someone who's celebrating and embracing a type of hopelessness. And that does concern me, that we do internalize the pressures to the extent where we can start to imprison ourselves.
I will say this. I think that there's a great deal of pride that I take in the achievement of Black people in this country, in spite of like a system of support that has encouraged or wanted them to achieve, right? I think I also am learning to expand that pride from not just people who've achieved in spite of, but now people who achieve because of, right? That we get a chance to stand on the shoulders of those who come before us, and that there are people who have been elevated, that their starting point is a little bit different. Not everybody, but some of us, right? You were talking about music, and then you made me think about 3 Stack's new album, Andre 3000's new album, which nobody was like, 3 Stacks ain't gonna drop no bars.
Right.
But the album's pretty good.
Right.
The album is funky and strange and delightful. And like, 3 Stacks gave me the flute album that I didn't know I needed in my life now.
There was even early resistance. Why?
Sure. Because I think
rejecting the idea that he could.
To that point, I think we also have to learn how to expand our definition of Blackness, because I think 30 years ago, it would have been very easy for us to say certain stories, certain kinds of music fall within the realm of quote unquote white people shit, right? And that's a sort of narrowing thing, meaning that if you do that, then your Blackness could possibly be taken away. And I think that we're learning as a society, as a culture, that like, it's too narrow.
But here's the message in that instance. And here's the one that I think I'm referring to. The message is, even you as an artist cannot be free. And it's a type of madness. You have to be confined to this. This is hip. This represents us. This is your credibility lies in your conformity. That's weird to me. It's weird to me.
I think there's a yes and. I think there's a way that you can be rooted in your community, but not be defined.
Sure, but I'm talking specifically relative to Dre.
Yeah.
Let that man play his music. And
sure.
And frankly, how is it your issue that this man picks up and plays the flute? But somehow, that's another issue, the question of the democratization of opinion, where everybody has
who gets to decide what it is.
But yeah, man, I mean, I thought that was just the most beautiful, like needed, breath of oxygen into the room. Do your thing.
Yeah.
Period.
And we're learning, I think what you're talking about is we're learning how to give each other the space to be Black, however it manifests within us. I think the only way to not be Black is to be anti-Black and Black. Those are the only folks that hurt my soul. Straight up. That's it.
Well, Sterling and Jeffrey, we literally could go on and on and on and on with questions, but our time is up for today. So sorry, those members who didn't get a chance to speak to these two gents, but
Sorry,
we
y'all.
certainly will hope to have an opportunity. I have a feeling on February 21st when we have the AAFCA Awards that these two might be in the house. So anyway, on behalf of the world's largest group of Black film and TV critics, thank you guys. We love you. We support you. We got you. And thank everyone for watching AAFCA Roundtables. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Love you back, yo. Thanks a lot, guys. Peace, y'all.
Absolutely.